Girlfriend, F20, of over a year broke up with me, Nb22, to prioritize mental health. But that's not the real reason. Summary. My girlfriend, aged 20, who I have been dating for over a year, developed feelings for a guy, aged 22, whom she assured me, at the time we were in a long-distance relationship, I should not worry about. She later admitted to emotionally cheating on me and ended our relationship in order to focus on her mental health, yet she chose to retain him in her life. I am finding it difficult to process the blame, questioning if I am at fault more than I realize. To provide some context, the initial part of my relationship with my ex was spent together in our university city. However, around June, we transitioned to a long-distance relationship after I moved back home with my parents following graduation. We made an effort to visit each other frequently. It's also essential to note that prior to our relationship, she had feelings for this guy but did not inform him due to the start of my relationship. Thus, she faced the dilemma of choosing between pursuing something with him or being with me. Additionally, they have been members of the same band for over a year, with approximately 20 individuals in it, and he has developed friendships with many of her friends. She sings, and he plays the drums. About a week ago, my girlfriend of over a year ended our relationship after confessing she had developed feelings for the very guy she advised me to not worry about, citing a need to prioritize her mental health. A month prior, after attending a house party, she texted me about experiencing a romantic moment with him, where she fell asleep next to him after drinking heavily, had a nightmare, and woke up upset, leading him to comfort her with a hug that turned into cuddling. Upon realizing the romantic nature of the event, she quickly pulled back, referred to it as romantic, and indicated she would need to inform me in order to set boundaries. The critical aspect is that she also asked him if he had feelings for her, to which he admitted he did. This became significant as a month earlier, we had briefly broken up because this same guy was making me feel intensely insecure, as it was evident she treated him better than me. For example, she sought emotional support from him while claiming she did not feel a connection with me, or she would make spontaneous plans with him but dismiss my requests for the same, stating her dislike for spontaneity due to how it disrupted her schedule. This situation escalated after we spent a few days with her friends, including him, at her holiday home for her birthday, where I noticed their closeness, heightening my insecurities and leading me to believe she still had feelings for him, despite her strong denials. I spent countless nights during that trip expressing my feelings to her about how he was affecting me, but she attributed it all to my insecurities, unable to confront her feelings because there was no concrete evidence suggesting either of them was reciprocating feelings. Returning to the initial breakup, a couple of days later, I noticed he had liked pictures on my Instagram. A click on the notification revealed he had liked a post from one of my trips with my ex, which I found oddly coincidental. When I brought this to her attention, she concurred it was peculiar and promised to confront him about whether he had feelings for her. When she did ask, he denied having any feelings. He mentioned trying to unfollow me, but encountered technical issues with his phone. Although minor, it is worth noting that due to their conversation stress, she ended up drinking excessively and kissed another guy in her band, thereafter declaring herself a whore, and fearing I would discover her actions. The crux is that the past inquiry about his feelings had resulted in a no from him, which I found unconvincing and voiced my distrust towards him, believing he likely would act inappropriately in the future. Afterward, I assumed my insecurities were impacting our relationship, so I focused on addressing them, and we reconciled with the understanding that I would accept her friendship with him. To her credit, I felt significantly better around him during this time and even sent him an apology message prior to my visit to their university city to mitigate any awkwardness. However, I did encourage her to address her feelings as it was apparent she had unresolved emotions towards him. She would become anxious in his presence, fearing my upset despite my clear communication of my boundaries. Instead of addressing her feelings, she only confronted them when they became undeniable, resulting in a more painful experience for us both. Had she confronted her feelings when I suggested, we might have navigated the situation more healthily. In the month when he admitted having feelings for her, she confronted him, accusing him of lying previously, to which he responded he acted based on what he deemed best in that moment, without considering the consequences. He mentioned feeling terrible after receiving my apology, though he did not clarify why. Upon receiving this information from her, I initially felt compelled to break up, having previously stated I could not date someone harboring feelings for another. Ultimately, I realized the relationship meant too much to me, so I decided to overlook it for her sake. She demonstrated willingness to work things through by coming to me immediately, and I took that seriously. Despite this, her friends advised her to break up with me, while my friends suggested I refrain from making impulsive decisions. A few days later, she spoke with him to establish boundaries, which included maintaining only a platonic relationship, requiring him to treat me more amicably, not seeking emotional support from one another, no one-on-one hangouts beyond band commitments, due to her anxiety regarding seeing him, and meeting in public settings if necessary, along with avoiding excessive drinking together. He accepted all these terms, suggesting he needed a boundary against hearing about anything that would upset me, as it made him anxious. My primary boundary involved her seeking therapy, as it was evident she had difficulty managing her emotions. This had been evidenced previously in an instance where I questioned her loyalty due to her seeking emotional support from him without realizing its appearance. This was the only boundary, until it became unmanageable. She struggled to understand the depth of her feelings for him, which led to me attempting to guide her through her emotions while simultaneously addressing my own issues and insecurities arising from the situation. Unfortunately, this approach backfired, as she expressed that it stressed her further and that she was only responding to my concerns because she believed it would improve our relationship instead of taking the time to reflect on her true feelings. She did not express this until she reached a breaking point, claiming to be entirely emotionally exhausted. Consequently, she made statements to me she did not entirely agree with and later retracted. At this juncture, I concluded I would not pose any more questions, allowing therapy to handle matters and only discussing required issues such as my own distress. As a result, I laid down another boundary, stating I would not continue in our relationship until he either accepted responsibility or apologized for his role in the situation, including lying and failing to establish boundaries. She communicated this to him, and he presented a complete turnaround. He claimed he was confused during the incident due to being intoxicated and hungover, insisted he did not have feelings for her, acknowledged not wanting to hurt anyone, and said that if he realized it would negatively affect anyone, he would have refrained from his previous actions. He also clarified that when he spoke of feeling terrible, he meant he felt bad about my insecurities rather than because he had feelings for her. However, I questioned why this topic would arise in a conversation about his feelings. He expressed he delayed his apology due to feeling guilty, not knowing how to approach the subject. To me, this seemed like a weak excuse since he had ample time to communicate and was aware of the damage to my relationship with my ex. Still, he failed to act. My ex acknowledged that this behavior was unacceptable, and we both concurred in our observations that he was likely not being truthful. Only when I established a firm boundary did he begin to retract his statements. He agreed to apologize to me, but over the course of a week, I heard nothing from him. During that week, my relationship with my ex seemed stable, with only issues emerging surrounding him rather than concerning her or our relationship. Eventually, I asked her how long was too long to wait for this apology, feeling it was the only barrier to moving forward and healing. It appeared this question triggered a breakdown on her part. I inquired why she put so much blame on herself when accountability should have been shared, leaning more towards him for his lack of clarity. She confessed uncertainty, and we concluded the conversation on a tense note, with limited communication the following day. When we did converse, she mentioned gaining insight into why she felt immense self-blame, continually emphasizing it wasn't about the relationship, but rather her feelings, which felt misaligned to me. I maintained that had he managed the situation differently, we wouldn't have reached this point. She stated she would never adopt my viewpoint on him, fundamentally opposing it. Throughout our discussion, I persistently urged her to view the situation from an external perspective. I explained that the cause of my distress stemmed from his dishonesty and failure to control his emotions, not from within our relationship. The issues were either previously resolved or we had openly discussed and agreed upon them. I encouraged her to refocus on the genuine cause of our issues, her friendship with him, which was not something within our relationship that caused harm nor continued to inflict damage. Eventually, this discussion led her to end our relationship via text, refraining from outright stating it while requesting we call for closure. Throughout this conversation, she repeatedly expressed uncertainty about her decision, yet believed it was essential for her mental health. Initially, I declined to call, wondering why we would discuss closure when it was apparent her decision had been finalized. That seemed unnecessary to me. I felt no need for closure as it was clear her choice was made. However, after some reflection, I concluded calling her could be beneficial for my own sake, providing me an opportunity to assert myself, as the treatment I received was unjust. Consequently, the following day, we spoke. I allowed her the floor first, ensuring she felt heard because I cared about her desire to prioritize her mental health. Nevertheless, I was unhappy that she was attributing all her feelings to our relationship and how we managed difficulties. I found it disheartening that, although I had recommended therapy to support her mental health, I was experiencing the negative consequences of a situation I did not initiate. Still, I listened without interruption. After she finished, I highlighted all the contradictions in her statements, demonstrating how her concerns regarding our relationship could be linked back to his actions or his inability to act responsibly. I questioned her reasoning for directing her frustrations at our relationship rather than addressing the friendship that initially caused the conflict, and she initially disagreed, later claiming she was projecting her frustrations onto herself. I then asked why he is allowed to remain in her life while I was being cut out entirely. I explained that naturally, she perceives our relationship as the issue, as the repercussions of her actions contributed to it becoming a relationship concern. Ignoring the fact that the primary problem originated from the friendship transformed it into a relationship matter. Although I had never initially presented her with an ultimatum, as she continued forgiving him for his detrimental mistakes affecting our relationship and my mental well-being, it ultimately became necessary. She rationalized it was acceptable for her because he hadn't caused her mental distress, and because he never intended to create chaos. The decision between him or me ultimately fell in his favor. I told her to refrain from contacting me again as long as he was still in her life. It felt as though she was processing feelings that she should have confronted weeks earlier, finally allowing herself time for introspection instead of seeking distractions from friends at the first sign of distress. While on holiday with her family, she had ample opportunity to contemplate her emotions without interruption. Yet, she was resurrecting previously resolved conversations, indicating a lack of rationality and thoughtful decision-making in her approach. It seemed she was racing to catch up with her emotions at my expense. Now, she retains him in her life while I face complete exclusion, and I am uncertain if she will ever comprehend how unjust that genuinely is. I am seeking opinions on who carries the blame. Is it me, him, her, or are all three of us accountable? How do I begin to rationalize all of this? Did I handle matters incorrectly? Is it worth attempting to contact her? If she reaches out again, what should my reaction be? What does it indicate if she does not return with the understanding that I was right? How do I progress from this situation? Timeline for clarity. September. We all gather at her holiday home for her birthday, where their interactions imply mutual feelings. November. We break up, and he claims to have no feelings for her. December. We decide to rekindle our relationship, contingent upon my work on my insecurities regarding him and our relationship. January. I surprise her during band tour, staying for a week in our university city. Shortly after, she informs me about their romantic encounter. February. We end our relationship as she wishes to focus on her mental health. Story 2. I skipped college to meet her, only for her to call another guy. I always give, but I barely get anything. Why am I always second? We have been best friends for 5 years. In fact, we share one of the closest connections, which I value immensely. However, recently, it goes without saying that I have deep feelings for her, extending beyond mere friendship. Yet, there have been several occasions when I can't help but wonder if she doesn't prioritize me in the same way that I prioritize her. 1. Our friendship has always been long distance, and I recall years ago when I missed a day of college just to meet her for the first time. Previously, we had met a few times, but it was usually at either my place or hers. When I finally met her after months, I felt thrilled inside. I viewed it as our little date. However, she chose to call the guy she was involved with. Why? Because she wasn't able to meet him at other times. This was also her first outing, so she decided to include him. I felt utterly devastated at that moment. I had skipped college, traveled to her campus, picked her up, and chosen a lovely spot for us to spend time together, only for her to invite that guy. 2. She has a tendency to go through phases where she leaves people on read, not communicating for a month or longer, then later reappearing as if nothing happened. This truly bothered me because we typically spoke every day, sharing the details of our lives. And it's not because she was dealing with personal issues, it is just part of her nature. I understand everyone needs some time away from socializing, but she wouldn't even notify me that she would be absent for a while, simply ignoring me for months. What if I were experiencing difficulties? What if I needed her? What if something were to happen to me? I once came across a quote suggesting that one should not concentrate on the 20 negative aspects of a relationship, but rather focus on the 80 positive ones. So, I attempted to find peace with this situation. 3. I remember my first paycheck. I worked for 4 months to earn $40,000. Although this may not seem like much, it is quite significant for me. I didn't even inform my mother about it because I wanted to invest in stocks. However, she persistently asked me to share it with her. I don't mind, I care for her deeply. Over these 5 years, I have purchased numerous gifts for her, as gift giving is my love language. But it was often only because she asked me to buy things for her. Sometimes, I wonder if she considers my financial situation, as it occasionally feels overwhelming. There was one instance when she wanted to go on a trip with her college friends and requested $10,000. $10,000 seems excessive to me. I realize it may be rude to feel this way, but I questioned why she could not ask her family instead. Nevertheless, I managed to send her the money, and 2 days later, she informed me the trip was canceled but did not return the money. Since she resides in a hostel, I thought she might use it for essentials. 4. During this period, we had been spending most of our time at home, while she was attending college in a different city. I was very eager about her joining college. However, once she left, I felt completely neglected. She wouldn't respond to texts for weeks. What hurt me the most was how she acknowledged my birthday. We always exchanged letters, poetry, gifts, and posted stories on social media for each other's birthdays. But all I received from her was a simple, happy birthday. That deeply hurt me because she had barely been in touch during the 2 months leading up to it. I thought to myself, it's my birthday, shouldn't she at least give me some of her time? But there was nothing, not even a mention on social media. I must mention that she posted a birthday story for her favorite celebrity, but not for me. There were no gifts or letters. I write poetry about her consistently, and to feel nothing on such a significant day was disheartening. I bought her flowers on Valentine's Day, and she orders flowers for her sister's birthday and her parents' anniversary through me. I expected to receive flowers for my birthday but did not. 5. Every time she returns to our hometown, I pick her up from the bus stop and purchase a few items for her along the way. I even once argued with my uncle just to go see her. Today, she was visiting, and she asked me to accompany her to a store and shop for her. I skipped my gym session and had several assignments to complete, but who did I prioritize? Naturally, I chose her. I spent 2 hours shopping for her and even bought her a shirt she desperately wanted but couldn't afford. Since it had been months since we last met, I hoped to spend an additional 15 to 20 minutes together. So I also brought her flowers and a small cake of her favorite flavor with the words, "Just because" written on it. I also got a candle to celebrate her educational achievements and handle life. I invested 3 hours planning this. When I arrived at her home, I called her to come downstairs. I held a bag of her shopping clothes in one hand and the flowers and cake in the other. She came down, immediately expressing concern about her dad coming home soon and urging me to leave quickly. We are both girls and friends. Her father knows me, and so does her entire family. I have given gifts for her sister's wedding, bought a cute dress when her niece was born, and spoiled her nephew with countless toys. I handed her the bag of clothes, and she insisted that I must go. My heart shattered, and I couldn't bring myself to offer her the flowers. I had spent 3 hours preparing everything, felt utterly exhausted, but all I desired was to share an additional 15 minutes with her, hand her the roses and cake, see her smile, embrace her, and then leave. Yet we barely interacted for more than 3 minutes. She just insisted, "Go, go, go, he'll see us." I found myself in tears on the way home. She never meets with me when she returns to our hometown unless I plead with her or if she needs something from me. She did send me a text apologizing, and I reassured her that it was okay. But the truth is, it isn't okay. This may seem trivial to some, but I feel as though I have invested significantly more in this friendship than I have received from her. It genuinely breaks my heart. I feel like she appreciates the affection I offer her, how I constantly praise her, buy whatever she requests, and write poetry about her. However, it seems she does not value my presence. I may be mistaken, but that is how all these experiences have made me feel. It feels as though she does not love me, she loves the way I love her. I do not expect anything in return, I just needed to express my thoughts. Thank you for reading. Please feel free to share your opinions if you wish.